He walked into the precinct hoping to be heard. Calm, respectful, just wanting answers. Instead, they laughed at him, mocked his story, dismissed him like a joke. But what they didn't know was that his last name already hung on the wall behind them, and the moment they found out who he really was, it was too late to take it back, because this time the complaint wasn't going away quietly. The overhead lights buzzed faintly as the precinct doors swung open with a soft creak. Isaiah Jackson stepped inside, the warm afternoon sun still clinging to his back as the door shut behind him. He stood for a moment, letting his eyes adjust to the dim, institutional lighting. The lobby was quiet, too quiet, save for the distant hum of a copier and the muffled laughter coming from somewhere down the hall. He walked forward slowly. No rush, no confrontation, just a young man in dark slacks, a crisp white polo, and a navy windbreaker. His shoes were clean, his shoulders squared, but his face carried the quiet fatigue of someone who'd been holding it together all day. Behind the front desk, two officers sat side by side, one older, grey at the temples, tapping at a keyboard with deliberate slowness. The other, younger and cockier, leaned back in his chair, feet nearly on the desk, scrolling through his phone. Neither looked up right away. Isaiah cleared his throat lightly. "Excuse me," he said. "I need to report something." The younger one glanced up, expression already disinterested. "What kind of something?" "I was pulled over this morning," Isaiah said, voice even. "No reason given. They searched my car without consent. No ticket, no explanation." The older officer blinked once, then gave a low chuckle. "Let me guess," he muttered. "Racial profiling." The younger officer snorted. "Man, that's like the third one this week," he said, elbowing his partner. "They got a script or something." Isaiah didn't flinch. "I'm not here to argue. I just want to file the report." Sure, the younger officer said, waving his hand lazily. "We'll get right on that." He looked past Isaiah, toward the empty lobby. Next, Isaiah stood still, calm, collected. His hands stayed at his sides, his breath measured. "I'd like someone to document what happened," he said again, properly. The older officer sighed. "You got a name, kid?" "Isaiah Jackson." The name didn't register. "Not yet." The younger one looked him up and down again, smirked. "You sound real official. Got yourself a lawyer already too." Another laugh, another shrug. Isaiah stayed quiet. He watched them both, watched how casually they dismissed him, watched how easy it was for them to assume he didn't matter. He reached into his wallet, pulled out his ID, and placed it gently on the desk. "Here," he said. Neither of them picked it up right away. They didn't need to. They thought they already knew who he was, but they didn't. Not yet. The ID sat on the counter, untouched. The laminate caught the light, but neither officer leaned forward. The younger one, badge reading M. Rivers, tilted his head and squinted like Isaiah had said something funny. "Oh, Isaiah Jackson," he said slowly, drawing the name out like it was a punchline. "Well, that changes everything, doesn't it?" He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk with theatrical flair. "Let me guess," he said, shifting into a mock-serious tone. "You got pulled over for no reason, right? Just driving along, minding your business, real model citizen." The older officer stifled a laugh.
"Yeah."
Rivers continued, nodding with fake sympathy. "And then they just happened to search your car, huh? Didn't find anything because you're squeaky clean, and now you're here for justice."
He even threw in air quotes around the word.
Isaiah didn't move. The older one, badge-reading Turner, shook his head and muttered, "Man, they're all reading the same blog or something. I was profiled. I was targeted. You know how many times we hear that." Rivers clapped his hands once. "Yo, Turner, I got it. Watch this." He cleared his throat, puffed out his chest, and launched into a full impersonation. "I just want to file a complaint, sir. I was disrespected. My rights were violated. I got feelings." He laughed loud at his own joke. Isaiah's face didn't change. He didn't shift his weight or raise his voice. He just watched, eyes steady, unblinking. Turner chuckled again, but not as boldly. "Hey, don't be so uptight, man. We're just messing with you. Relax." Isaiah finally spoke, voice cool as glass. "I came here because I thought this station would take civil rights seriously." "Oh, we do," Rivers said, still smiling. "Just gotta prove you got any first." That one hit harder than the rest. Isaiah's hands remained at his sides, fingers still. The lobby around them was quiet, still, but inside him, something had shifted. Not anger, not yet, just a clarity. He looked at them both, noted the body language, the slouched posture, the glances they exchanged, the way neither had written anything down, the fact that his ID was still untouched on the counter. They hadn't even asked what precinct pulled him over, hadn't asked for a badge number. They'd made up their minds the second he walked in. Another joke passed between them, this one too low to catch fully. Rivers laughed again. Turner reached for his coffee, and Isaiah, still calm, picked his ID back up, slid it into his wallet, and said only one thing: "Thanks for your time." He turned, stepped slow and quiet on the linoleum floor, the sound of their laughter trailing after him like static. The smirks were still fresh when Isaiah turned back.
He didn't say a word.
Just walked a few steps back to the desk, and laid his ID down again. This time, slower, firmer, right on the counter, where the light hit it clean. Officer Rivers glanced at it, eyes skimming past out of habit, expecting nothing. Then he blinked. Once.
Twice.
His gaze dropped again, slower now, like his brain needed a moment to catch up with what his eyes were reading.
He leaned in slightly.
Turner noticed the pause. What, did he spell injustice wrong? He muttered, chuckling at his own joke. But Rivers didn't laugh this time. He picked up the ID, turned it over. The silence hit like a slap.
Turner looked over,
still amused. "What's up?" Rivers didn't answer, just held the ID like it had turned hot in his hands. His jaw shifted. A flicker of recognition moved across his face, like a cloud passing over the sun.
"Jackson,"
he said, quieter now.
"'It's your name's Jackson. It's your name's."
"Jackson."
"Yeah."
Isaiah didn't respond. Turner frowned. So, Rivers looked up, met Isaiah's eyes for the first time, with something that almost resembled concern.
"Your dad wouldn't happen to be Chief Raymond Jackson, would he?"
Isaiah didn't blink. He would.
Turner's face shifted.
Just a little. The way a man does when he realizes the joke might have been on him all along. He leaned forward slowly, scanning Isaiah's face, like he hadn't really looked at him until just now. "Wait, you're his kid."
"It's your name."
Isaiah nodded once. Calm. Isaiah. Firstborn. Same house. Same table. The weight dropped instantly. Rivers set the ID down like it might explode. "Man, nobody told us he had a son our age," he muttered, eyes flicking toward Turner. "Didn't even know he had kids," Turner said, clearing his throat.
He suddenly stood a little straighter.
"Well," Rivers tried, voice pitched higher now. "Look, about earlier. We were just messing around. You know, busting chops. We didn't mean anything by it." Isaiah didn't respond. "We're just used to jokers coming in here with wild claims," Turner added, fumbling. "You wouldn't believe the stuff people say." "I believed it," Isaiah said, finally. "That's why I came in." They didn't laugh this time. Turner scratched the back of his neck. "You want to, talk to someone? We can bring in Sergeant Miller, if you want a formal report. Totally up to you." Rivers offered a forced smile. "Water, coffee."
"You okay?"
Isaiah picked up his ID, slipped it back into his wallet, like he'd never taken it out. "You didn't care who I was 5 minutes ago," he said quietly. "Keep that same energy now." And just like that, the room felt colder. Turner stepped around the desk, like the floor had changed under his feet. His voice, once casual and dismissive, now carried the careful cadence of someone trying to unburn a bridge.
Listen,"
he started, hands slightly raised. "Why don't we head into the back, talk this out properly? No pressure, just want to make sure you're heard, that's all." Rivers nodded quickly. "We got a room down the hall, quieter, private. We can take your statement, get this sorted." He was already halfway out of his chair, suddenly alert, suddenly invested. Isaiah didn't move. Turner gestured toward a hallway with a brittle smile. "Or we can grab the sergeant, if that makes you more comfortable. Up to you." "No need," Isaiah said, voice level. "Or hey," Rivers offered, reaching for a mini fridge. "You want something to drink? We've got water, soda." "I didn't come here for a beverage," Isaiah said. That landed harder than anything else he'd said all afternoon.
The air shifted again. Rivers chuckled nervously, trying to smooth the edges. Look, man, we were just messing around at first. Didn't realize you were, you know. Isaiah looked at him. You what? Rivers hesitated, connected. Isaiah's eyes narrowed just slightly. So if I wasn't, the silence cracked open between them. Turner cleared his throat. Look, we get a lot of walk-ins, a lot of false alarms. It's not personal. Isaiah nodded once. It felt personal. Neither of them spoke. He looked between them, eyes steady, not angry, just tired, just done. Is this how you treat everyone who walks in here? He asked quietly. Or just the ones who look like me? Rivers looked at the floor. Turner shifted his weight. We try to be fair with everyone. That wasn't the question, Isaiah said. The ticking of the wall clock grew louder. Somewhere down the hall, a printer sputtered to life. But in that small lobby, no one moved. Isaiah let the weight of his question hang there, not to shame them, not to win, just to make them sit with it. He turned without waiting for an answer. His shoes clicked softly against the floor as he walked to the door. Rivers called out, voice thin. You gonna tell him? Isaiah paused, hand on the door. You think he doesn't already know? Then he walked out, no slamming, no yelling, just the soft click of the door behind him, and the long uncomfortable quiet left in his place. The knock came first, 2 quick taps against the frosted glass of his office door. Chief Raymond Jackson didn't look up right away. His desk was cluttered with paperwork, case files, a half-drunk coffee going cold. It had been one of those days, the kind with too many meetings, and not enough progress. Then the intercom buzzed. Chief, you might want to come out here. The voice didn't say why, just carried a tightness he didn't like. He stood slowly, adjusted his shirt collar, and stepped into the hallway. His boots echoed down the linoleum corridor, each step steady, measured. As he approached the front lobby, he caught sight of the silence first. It had weight to it, the kind that didn't belong in a room full of cops. Then he saw Isaiah, standing alone near the door, hands at his sides, face unreadable, and he stopped. For just a moment, the air caught in his chest. The room blurred around the edges. His son, here, in this lobby. He looked at Isaiah, then at Rivers and Turner, who suddenly found the floor incredibly interesting. What's going on? The chief asked. Not a bark, not a growl, but sharp enough to cut through whatever performance had been rehearsed in their heads. Neither officer spoke. I asked you a question, the chief repeated, stepping fully into the room now. His voice carried more than rank, it carried history. Turner cleared his throat. Your son, he came in to report something, said he was profiled this morning, claimed a stop with no probable cause. Claimed, the chief echoed. I mean, he said. Turner corrected quickly. We didn't get the full story. Things got tense. Rivers stepped in. We didn't know who he was, sir. That's supposed to matter. The words landed like a gavel. The silence doubled. The chief turned to Isaiah. You good? Isaiah nodded once. I'm fine. You tell them what happened. Tried. The chief's jaw tightened. He turned back to the desk. Did you take his statement? We were about to. Turner offered, weakly. Did you log the complaint? Rivers hesitated. Not yet. The chief's eyes narrowed. How long has he been standing here? Long enough, Isaiah said quietly. The chief let out a breath. Not loud, not sharp, just controlled, like a man who had learned, long ago, not to waste his energy on dramatics, when precision would do. He stepped past the desk, slowly, looked Turner square in the eye. Tell me exactly what happened. From the moment he walked in, and don't skip the jokes. Neither of them moved. The chief waited, arms crossed, not as a father, but as the highest-ranking officer in that building. And this time, someone was going to answer. The bulletin went out on Monday morning. No patrols, no routine shifts, no coffee-fueled briefings in the back room. Just one message, bold and clear, mandatory attendance required. No exceptions. By noon the precinct's usual rhythm was gone. Squad cars stayed parked, desks emptied. The halls, normally buzzing with half-hearted banter, fell into an uneasy hush. Officers filed into the conference room in small, uncertain groups, clipboards waiting at their chairs, observers already seated along the wall. No one had to ask why. Chief Raymond Jackson stood at the front. No podium, no script, just him, sleeves rolled, voice calm but anchored. "There's no investigation into this department," he said. "There's an investigation within it." Not a single officer looked up right away. He didn't speak for long, didn't need to. The message was sharp enough to linger. That afternoon, the interviews began, one by one. The review board brought more than questions. They brought records, old logs, body cam gaps, complaints marked, unsubstantiated, that were now getting a second look. Some went back years, others were more recent. A few had names that made the room stiffen. And suddenly, the silence Isaiah had walked into wasn't just awkward. It was evidence. In break rooms and back halls, officers whispered. Some defended the status quo. "It's just how it is," they muttered. "You joke to get through the day." But others shifted in their seats, rethinking old conversations, replaying moments they'd brushed off, jokes they laughed at, reports they didn't file. Anonymous statements began arriving, typed, folded, slipped under doors, stories that matched each other too well to be fiction. People who had walked into that lobby and left feeling smaller, not once, not twice, repeatedly. The chief read every one. He didn't yell, didn't storm through the halls with fury. That wasn't his way. Instead, policies changed. A new oversight committee was formed, half internal, half civilian. Bias training wasn't just recommended, it was scheduled, reviewed, tracked, and every morning that week, the wall of framed awards and commendations in the front lobby felt a little heavier. Because now, they had to mean something. Raymond Jackson didn't treat what happened to Isaiah like a family matter. That would have been easy, quiet, contained. But what he saw wasn't a single act of disrespect. It was a pattern, a culture. And the difference between a moment and a movement is whether you do something after the cameras are gone. So the chief kept showing up, first in, last out, listening, watching, rebuilding. Because when his son walked out of that station, he didn't just carry disappointment, he carried proof. And now, the storm Isaiah left behind was no longer quiet. It was beginning to clear the air. Isaiah hadn't told anyone he was going to the station that day. Not his father, not his friends, not even his mother, who would have told him to be careful, to brace himself. He just went, because something in him needed to. Not out of pride, not to pull rank, but because the moment the officer's flashlight hit his face that morning, too quick, too suspicious, too ready, he knew it wasn't about the tail light. It was about him, and that stayed with him. When the officer waved him off with no explanation, when the silence in the car on the ride home grew thick and heavy, Isaiah knew there was only one place to take it. He expected to be questioned, maybe ignored. What he didn't expect, what hit harder than anything, was to be laughed at. He hadn't come to start something. But in that moment, as the jokes flew, and the smirk spread across their faces, Isaiah realized he'd walked straight into a reflection of something much bigger. They didn't see him. They saw a stereotype, a problem, a nuisance, until they saw the name. And even then, it wasn't respect. It was regret, not for what they'd said, only for who they'd said it to. That was the part that stuck. Isaiah didn't go back. He didn't need to. The silence he left in his wake did more than words ever could. The precinct changed. Meetings were held. Files were reopened. New names began appearing on training rosters and oversight committees. People started listening, if only because they realized who had been listening all along. But Isaiah stayed quiet. He didn't go on the news, didn't give interviews. He didn't need to become a symbol. He was just a son, a citizen, a young black man who walked into a room and saw it for what it really was, and spoke. The change that followed wasn't loud. It didn't happen overnight, but it started with him. And every time an officer now double-checked their tone, every time a complaint got logged instead of laughed at, every time someone chose to see instead of assume, Isaiah's steps echoed there too. He never asked to be part of a turning point. He just refused to let a moment pass untouched. That was enough. Sometimes reform doesn't begin with a protest. Sometimes it begins with someone quietly refusing to be disrespected. And when Isaiah Jackson walked out of that building, he didn't slam the door behind him. He left it open, just wide enough for the truth to walk in after him. If this story moved you, share it. Because silence lets systems stay broken, but stories spark change. Don't scroll past, spread the message. Drop a comment below. Have you ever been dismissed before being heard? Repost it, retell it. Remind others that respect shouldn't depend on who you are, or who your father is. And if you believe in accountability, follow and subscribe. Black Roots for more stories that don't just expose injustice, they demand better. Let's turn moments like this into momentum.